Butterflies on the windowsill. We are. Winter slow, summer still.
You want to shut it down?
Rivers cry.
Yeah. You want to give it a little more time?
See the skies alone.
We can start.
Dark and blue, stay.
Ready to start?
Yes.
Well, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start talking about generational trauma. We don't want to hold you up. Maybe some other people are going to show, but we want to start with what we have. What is trauma? Why am I afraid? Why do I feel scared? Why do I feel in any way uncomfortable in certain situations? Why do I act in a certain way in a certain environment? That was already pre-born into me when I was born from my ancestors. So in a way, I have no choice but to act in this particular way, but you can learn a different way, but it takes time because we are born with a tabula rasa, which is a blank slate. However, our genetics put things in our head. Have you ever heard that when your mother had you in the womb, she played music and the music soothed you and you remember that music and you might hear that music and as an adult you can still be very soothed. So this is some of the things that generational perception, generational characteristics can carry with you, but also it can be positive. Things can happen in your nature that are positive that carry over generations, or it can be negative. I now want to turn it over to our facilitator, Chris Times.
Hey guys, glad you're here, and we're just here to, look at what causes us to do what we do, what drives us to certain behaviors and things like that. I know there are a lot of times I do stuff, and I'm like, why am I doing this, right? Why am I thinking this way, right? But a lot of times, if you do a little bit of digging, you'll find out that, man, some of the things that I'm doing, I learned from my parents, but they learned from their parents, and then so on and so on. And so you have lots of things that happen, and you find out, wow, what's going on. A lot of people say, and I do believe that, like slavery has a lot to do with our traumas, or any other kind of thing that happened to you when you're walking around.
Can you break a generational trauma cycle?
Yeah, I think so. There's some things that you can do to rework that. And I know we talk about the schema, the things that you have remembered or have been written, right, through your first trauma, and you end up encoding that into your body, how you work things and how you do things and why you do things. I had a guy I talked to just yesterday who did something that he's embarrassed of. And it's like, why did I do that, Chris? And I said, well, let's talk about it. And the thing that he did had seemingly nothing really to do with some stuff that he was dealing with that he wasn't dealing with. But after talking for 20 minutes on the phone, guess what? He's mad at his dad. He was upset with his father because his father died early, and he felt abandoned. And what happened after that? He ended up reliving that trauma over and over again in various iterations throughout his lifetime. And that's created problems for him ever since. He also has a problem with his mother, his real mother. There's abandonment issues there. There's some other stuff going on that he's like, oh wow. So he's lived his life with all of these things playing out in his mind in the background, right? And so he's come up with all kinds of maladies too, physically. And he has pain he can't explain. I know one lady who's going through some stuff and got lots of issues all over, physiological. Doctors can't explain it. How did I get this super rare disease? They have to come up with a name for it. No matter how much medication doesn't fix the problem. I know another person, same thing. They're going through some issues having to do with abusive love, the lady told me some crazy stuff about being stalked, a boyfriend, wasn't a husband, a boyfriend, 2-year relationship. All of a sudden, this person's stalking them, hanging outside with binoculars, all of that. And so this person starts living through this stuff, and although that was years ago, they're still dealing with it. But they didn't realize it was still a problem. And then when I dug through some of my family history, I found out some stuff that shocked me. And I'm like, now it makes sense about how my mom and dad were acting, because I did a little digging and found out what happened back in the country. And it's like these behaviors are repeating. These patterns are repeating. Why? It's because I think and we know that genetically, it comes through your genetic code. And you find out, oh wow, you know what, this just didn't show up.
I want to go through 5 factors that I think are the main factors that deal with generational perception of trauma. Well, trauma is one of the factors, but environment, of course, genetics, social or economic status, of course, learned behaviors, and all of those contribute to how we think and what happens in our mind. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to our expert, one of our counselors, Mr. Cassandra, if you would like to come up and talk, or talk from right there.
Okay. I would like to, but I don't want to interrupt Chris, because he was in the midst of his presentation. So we'll let him finish, and then I'll come in.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to give respect.
Oh, thank you. There are lots of people that come up with 5 health.
Yeah.
And a lot of women get it. It's like, I've got fibromyalgia, and the doctors try to treat it, say UTMB down the street, all these other medical centers. The doctors don't know how to treat this, although they say they do, they really don't. And they're trying to treat it via medication. But the problem has nothing to do with medication. It has everything to do with how I'm living my life today in reflection of what happened in my past. Something happened in the womb, something happened, maybe it was a bad childbirth, traumatic injury, could be brain injury, could be 1,000 things. And so you end up living your life trying to figure out what happened to me, right? It could be that you might have mother issues or father issues, right?
Or relationship issues.
Totally. What caused me to act out in anger? It's not because I'm a bad person. It's because, I'm still living through some stuff that I totally hadn't acknowledged. Why am I living in a marriage, for goodness sake, and letting somebody abuse me? I was talking to somebody just yesterday, and they swore that they had no abuse in their life. But after doing intake, guess what? I pointed out at least 3 or 4 things that were significant that they were going through that they didn't realize was abuse. So what is abuse? What's trauma? Some people say that being born is trauma, right? separation from your mom. That's your first thing that happens. It's not, this is a formative environment we're in. This is not normal for us when we spend 9 months, in the comfort of our mother's womb, all of my needs taken care of, and then we're thrust into this world. All of a sudden, we got to fend for ourselves, we got to breathe for ourselves, and all of a sudden, that's trauma. But also somebody treating us wrong. I can't tell you how many kids, I work at a school also, who literally committed suicide. It happened last year. Kid hung himself in a bedroom, parents found him. This stuff happens to this day. People cutting, found a student cutting just the other day. All up and down her arm, walking around with black on. Why are you doing that? Call the parents don't care. Or they check it out, totally, making excuses. And it's kind of a barrier because all of a sudden, it's not just the child. She's cutting, he's cutting. You try to reach out to the parent, you send social workers to the house, guess what? Mama don't want to talk. Daddy ain't nowhere to be found. See, it's trauma, stuff that passed down from that child's parents. So you got all of these things that are happening in cycles and stuff. And so we end up living out this trauma all the time.
Let me ask this question. Is it easier today to break a cycle of trauma or harder? I would say harder because you have the internet that is reinforcing negative stereotypes and negative perceptions. And if you don't know how to factor out those influences, and you just, everywhere you have more and more negative peer pressures that are not reinforcing good behaviors or good mindset. If you just look at the TV can be so debilitating in what you are seeing in a 30-minute television show that can factor, the TV says, okay, everything is supposed to work out toward a happy ending, and that's not life. That's not life, and if we put our emphasis on that, it just starts reinforcing disappointment and things that we're already dealing with. So trauma is a hard thing to overcome, and you may need professional help to try to change that particular cycle. Would you like to comment on that?
Yes. Are you finished?
Yes.
Okay. So, my name is Christine Farms. I actually own the Victoria Farms Mental Health and Wellness Center in Houston, Texas. I am a registered nurse for almost 40 years, being a licensed psychotherapist, board certified in trauma-informed care and neuropsychotherapy. And the way that I like to do presentations is I'm very interactive and very engaging because I like conversations. And we can do the clinical thing all day long, but it's just stuff you can find on the internet. I like conversation because I want it to hit home and I want you to be able to take something with you that you can actually apply to your life, to have some level of understanding how to deal with your own idiosyncratic trauma presentations. So the way that I like to start, I want everybody just to tell what is your definition of trauma? How do you define it? What does that mean for you to say trauma? Because when Chris was talking, this is very common because based on your definition of trauma, you may not identify areas of trauma in your life. Okay, because if I don't think there's anything wrong with my mom beating my dad up because he's a man and he should take it, that may not present as trauma to me. If incest is very common in my family and everybody knows about it, that may not present as trauma to me. So we have to first understand how do we define trauma? What is actually traumatic? How is your subconscious mind or your operating system that governs your life, how is it processing? Because just because I think it's traumatic doesn't mean it's registering for you as traumatic. So I want to start with the young lady in the back. How do you actually define trauma? What does that actually mean for you?
I think initially just, like you said, without depth and deep, trauma is based off of perception. Yeah, trauma in itself, when I hear the word, it reminds me of something that is negatively, adversely affecting me and how I do my day-to-day operations in life. Getting stuck, not being able to get past certain things because of what somebody said or did. But I also think there's generational trauma because of stuff that we don't really understand that is trauma. There's repeated behaviors, repeated patterns, and repeated cycles that keep us in a certain place and space.
Absolutely. That's a great definition. How do you define trauma?
I think of abuse, like psychological, mental, physical, especially from childhood.
How do you define abuse? How do you define abuse?
Abuse is neglect,
Okay.
yeah, mostly neglect. Cause that's what I'm dealing with from childhood. Stuff that was like, I was just totally dismissed as a child, like I had everything, but, like you said, parents don't get engaged, it's like,
Absolutely.
I was just on my own.
And these are major points. How do you define trauma?
I define trauma as an event that caused your brain to rewire so it can cope with a fight or flight response to help you do what you need to cope with whatever you're facing.
Absolutely. That's great. And I'm gonna bring that in a minute, because you made a tremendous point. How do you define trauma?
Growing up, being blamed for everything you do, parents, things that happen to you when you're young, like what you said, emotional, relationship, family.
When you hear the term breaking generational curses, what does that mean to you? When you heard that terminology, breaking generational curses, how did that register for you?
How to stop the trauma from being repeated through generations to come.
Okay. How do you define breaking generational curses?
I think
Exactly how she defined it. How do you define it?
Just something that's from being passed on from generation to generation to generation, like.
How do you define breaking generational curses?
I would say first you have to, deal with the curse of the bloodline in order to deal with it. As a woman of God, spiritually speaking, I know we have the mind, body, soul, but know what altars have been set up before we ever came into existence. Know that there is post-traumatic stress disorder that's passed down through the bloodline. And so to break those, we want us to be able to identify what is the repeat behavior? How did I get here? Where did it come from? And then, like I said, for me as a woman of God, breaking through not only just traditional like counseling, but also healing of the soul. So,
What does healing of the soul mean for you?
to me, healing of the soul is, first of all, acknowledging that you have a problem. I don't think that a person can really be healed if they don't acknowledge that there's a problem. And then looking at why, a lot of times, let me speak for me, having to come to the understanding that at one point, dealing with rejection, fear, and all that was never violated as a child, but when you look at what's passed down through the bloodline of the father, or the maternal and paternal side, then you have to start looking at, okay, these are things that have been transferred down to me. And so, I would say I had a pretty good childhood, but my father was a drug addict. And so it wasn't traumatic to me, but obviously there were some things that should have happened as a father's role that didn't protect me, not from sexual violation, but how is a man supposed to treat a woman? How do you see things? And so it led me down to a path of sexual morality, looking for love in all the wrong places. So for me, breaking that, is to identify, like, you know what, you got some issues. You're not perfect. And like I said, been in church all my life. Now I'm turning to God and saying, Holy Spirit, I need you to help me to come out of this ditch or what have you. And it's not an easy process. But at the end of the day, when your soul is free, you can talk freely.
Yes.
And that's how you know that you're breaking stuff, and also that your soul is being free. Because it doesn't affect you like it would if you're not done or have not done it.
When you hear the terminology, my soul is free, or my soul being made free, whether you're a Christian, whether you have another spiritual belief system, or you just don't do spirituality at all, because all of us have a soul. When you hear that, my soul being set free, what does that mean to you?
Your spirit is being set free.
In what way?
Mentally, physically, and emotionally. Those two.
When you hear that terminology, what does it mean
Feel like you're relieved, self into you, your spirit is out of you. You want to release it, to relieve it.
When you hear generational blessings, what comes into your mind? Generational blessings. What comes into your mind when you hear terminology, generational blessings? Or do you think about generational blessings?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
And God bless us every day is what He died for us, and I thank Him for everything. Yeah, but I don't.
Okay. When you hear the term generational blessings, what comes into your mind?
People who were born with a silver spoon
Okay.
in their mouth.
Okay. When you hear generational blessings, what do you hear?
That's a good one, because usually, just curses, who have generational blessings, generational blessings. To me, it's no such thing. No,
How do you process generational blessings?
What I see is generational blessings is the total opposite of generational curses. So you see divorce, unwed, all that, drug use, all that. To me, generational blessing is prosperity in the family. Don't mean you're rich, but wealthy in your soul and in your family. You see people that get married, stay married, raise their family. You see people that may succeed in life. They're whole. They can raise another generation of kids without the trauma of not having a father and mother. So when I see it, so they're blessed in the city, they're blessed in the field. Wherever their hands touch, they're blessed. Wherever their feet go, they're blessed. Not that they don't have problems, but that's how I see generational blessings. And where the struggle is not I think she alluded to it, they're not living in a fight or flight mode. And so that's how I see generational blessings.
So let's look at why we have so much. How much time do I have? Because this opportunity is literally.
Whenever.
Okay. So let's just talk in this book, because if we're gonna break generational curses, we have to understand that as we break generational curses, we're releasing generational blessings, okay? Let me tell you why. I'm a subconscious mind expert. subconscious mind deals with the programming that you have from conception through birth, through cultivation in the womb, how you were, the environment that you were cultivated in when you were in the womb, being immersed into this earth realm until age 7, okay? How was the environment for you, even in the uterus? If your mother was stressed out, if your mother was depressed, if there was a lot of emotional turmoil going on with your mother while you're being cultivated in the womb, you're gonna generally have some emotional dysfunction. We've not been taught these things. This is why we have to understand what's called neuropsychotherapy, how the brain and the neurological system work with how you deal with your emotions and your core belief systems and your thought process. So from the moment you're conceived to 7 years old, the foundation of your operating system is being formed, whether that's in positivity or in negativity. So the healthier you are while you're carrying your child, the more that child is going to be emotionally balanced. The more turmoil that you're in while you're carrying a child. We heard spiritual rejection. I don't want to get pregnant. Maybe the dad didn't claim the baby. And you're dealing with a lot of rejection while you're carrying that child is going to have a high propensity to deal with issues around rejection. These studies related to this is very new. And then those of us that are Black and brown community, we definitely don't have these conversations. It's just like people don't even connect to the blessings in the family. We only connect to the negativity in the family. And so we have to have these conversations. A part of breaking generational cycles is understanding how it became a thing in the first place. She talked about childhood traumas or childhood toxicity, okay? All of these things from conception to 7 years old, every single thing that you have experienced is housed in the foundation of your psyche or your mental programming, because I don't want to get too technical, with what all of that is. And this is the shocking thing. It is literally gonna impact how you experience life in 95%. 95% of your life is gonna come from your programming mechanism from 0 to 7. So if you had early childhood trauma, people that had molestation, rape, sexual violation, verbal abuse, mental abuse, your environment was toxic, not being paid attention to, then that's gonna impact you. And at 7 years old, you start to really process information if you're healthy in your mental health development. So you think that, I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know what's, just as Chris alluded to, we have to do an assessment at how did your mother carry you? Was there rejection? Did the dad say, this is not my baby? Did your parents say you need to have an abortion? What was the dynamic as you carry that child? It is going to impact how you manage yourself emotionally for the rest of your life at 95%. Now, just like Rabuni said, rewiring that is very difficult, but it is doable. And I work with clients to rewire the subconscious mind programming that we don't want, okay? When you're looking at neurological systems, she spoke about the fight or flight response. You can have so much trauma in your life that response never turns off. It's called an amygdala activation. That's organ in the brain that's just fired all the time. You're just releasing adrenaline. And so you will be sitting here calm, but you don't know why you feel so nervous and anxious. You have people, I'm RN, that will come into the ER, I know I'm having a heart attack. And they can feel that their heart palpitating. And then we put them on the machines, everything is normal, no test for blood pressure, okay? You know why? Because your vagus nerve goes from your head all the way to your feet. So when you're in an anxious state, any body system can be activated. So you have people feel like they want to throw up, their gastric issues. I know my stomach hurts. Then when we do the scopes and all that, we don't see anything wrong. This is your vagus nervous system being activated all the time. Now, why do we want to know this? Because it's just like what she said. When you and Baruti asked, can this be changed? When you have dealt with a lot of trauma and you're certified in trauma or care like I am, they teach you to use your brain to heal your brain. She alluded to having the wiring, activated, rewired. Trauma rewires your brain. Just like trauma rewires your brain, you have to use your brain to rewire your brain back. And that's a very strategic process that we go through. But if we don't understand generational blessings, if we only understand dysfunction, if we're healing dysfunction, what are we gonna do with your psyche as we heal the dysfunction? We have to attach it to blessing, okay? So blessings are the great things that we see in our family. Because we may have a lot of negativity, but we also have some things that are good as well, right? So when you think generational blessings, give me 1 or 2 generational blessings in your family.
We're very close knit.
Okay.
Especially my immediate family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're very, we have a lot of, we're very kind to people,
Mm-hmm.
like strangers, and we're very merciful.
Okay. Okay. What are some positives that you've noticed in your family?
If you know, like, from the beginning, it was just totally dysfunctional from the beginning. And like I said, the thing that's so sad about it was that, okay, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, and you remember Mother Emmanuel? Okay, I was with all my parents in 1950, got a house in the historic district. We were the only black family there. We lived half a block from, we could see the steeple from our house. But anyway, like I said, we had everything. We weren't rich, but I would say we were raised upper middle class. We had the best food, the best clothes. We went to a private school, but other,
So I want to put a pin and revisit that. Okay.
Yeah, because I can tell you, if I'm allowed, I can tell you what happened. I know why it's like it is. But
I want to make a tremendous point though, based on what you just said. Think about in your family, what are some of the positives that you can think about that you see in your family?
That, if I need help with something, I know which family members to go to and they will be able to tell me.
Okay, see, that's great. Because some you don't get no family support, like when she feels this is perfect.
no,
It's only ask, when I need help, I could come to certain people to help me.
Okay.
That's true.
So you have some family support, you feel some family support.
Some don't.
Yeah. So let me say this. When you have been cultivated in a lot of pain, and this is kind of what Chris is, the opposite of what Chris is kind of looking to. All your psyche does is connect to the negative. And before I start every session, I don't care what my clients are going through, we have to do gratitude. and they can't do the basic gratitude, I'm grateful for my house, my car, my job. No, you have to look back over last week and come up with at least one or two things related to something within the last week to be grateful for. And that starts this unwinding process. You'd be surprised, it's literally like pulling teeth to get some of my clients. They have to think about days ahead. Okay, I know the Sarah's gonna ask me for gratitude. Write it down out because we're so checked out from the blessing. Now, she said, my family's nothing but dysfunction, right? But what else did she say? We went to the best school, we went to the private school, we had food, we had everything we needed. We was the only black family in the white neighborhood, which in North Carolina is still very prejudiced, even though it's a good space. But the reason why she's not connected to that psychologically is because of the level of pain and dysfunction. So when I work with my clients, I balance it out. I'm very directional as a therapist. I don't let my clients generally drive my session because you're not going to think about what I'm going to think about. I'm already an therapist and a corporate executive retired. So I pull from and have a whole bunch of degrees and licenses and certifications. So I pull from all of that. So I challenge their thinking. I don't let them come and just talk and we just bounce back and forth on that because you're not going to even think about what I'm talking about. And then secondly, there's a level of psychoeducation that the average person doesn't have as to why you're actually getting what you're getting. So I have to educate you, I have to wind back, I have to challenge thought processes so that we can think differently. Because if I don't think there's a such thing as generational blessings, I can't walk in what I don't believe in. Okay? So you look at my family, for example, we came out of slavery going to college. First generation free slaves. My great, I'm the fifth generation out of slavery. Great-great-great-grandfather had 11 kids, 4 of them went to college. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, every generation after that is college education. You have to work hard to find somebody in my family that don't have at least one degree. And we compete with each other on who can have the most. So my sister's graduated, I'm 62, she's 63. She graduated her PhD in August. So now I got to start mine because she has 5 degrees already. 4, this will be the 5th one. My mother, grandmother, everybody's educated. All my, probably 90% of my extended family, everybody is educated. Attorneys, doctors, dentists, pharmacists, RNs. Back in the 80s, we had 13 doctors, pharmacists, and RNs in the 80s. Only 6% of all RNs are black, only 6% of all doctors are black. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, only 4% nationally of licensed psychotherapists are black. Diseases, hardly nobody has, nothing, no mental illness, very few cancers, maybe people have high blood pressure, diabetes, we don't know. Nobody's had major diseases or surgeries. And I said, whoever our lineages from Africa is traveling in the DNA in a positive way. So most of us are not only well educated, but financially very prosperous. A friend of mine, every sibling, it's about 6 of them, all of them are millionaires. They're all healthy, all well educated. So you can have generational, we have very longevity in my family. And they'll live to 80s and 90s, almost 100, and be totally clear in their mind. Like nobody that I know of has dementia or Alzheimer's. So I said, somebody way back blessed they're our family line. Because we just don't, I have one cousin that was shot and killed, that was selling drugs. I only know two of my family members maybe three, that spend time in the pen. And we talk about a black family, a whole bunch of men. So what we don't have is stable marriages, okay? But we all in a degree is successful. So then we have to look at how do we break the cycle of trauma and birth out cycles of blessing, okay? Now, when I was pregnant, I would pray over my stomach every day. I would anoint my stomach with oil, and I would command 1,000 generations to be blessed. That's rooted in the Ten Commandments. You have, if you're a Christian, you have a biblical right to bless 1,000 of your generations. So these are things that break the cycles of trauma spiritually, even though you have to do the natural work. So, but we have to know that there is a such thing as generational blessing. Everybody in your family don't have to be violent. Everybody in your family don't have to be on drugs or abusive. I know somebody has 19 kids. All of the boys beat their wives. Okay, generational curses. But what if we start to rewire that and say, okay, how do we release generational blessings? We have to first believe that there's such thing, and the way you do that is you start identifying what are some of the positives that we have in our family that we can attach to that spiritually. Well, as we work through, because I don't believe in letting it go. That's not a reality in my psyche, in my opinion. I don't think you can let it go. I think that you have to go in, you have to deal with it, and you have to go through the process of reframing your trauma psychologically in your mind, so that now I can start rewiring it, just like she said. Okay? Because if you deal with enough anxiety and enough depression, your brain will lock into that fight or flight like she talked about, and you won't come out of it. It'll just be firing all the time. And it doesn't have to be attached to anything tangible. Like, you'll just be depressed, everything is going well for you. You look at all of the stars that have committed suicide, and this gets worse and worse. I had 3 murder-suicides in 2-week period of time. Every week I'm hearing about somebody committing suicide or killing somebody else or killing themselves and all kind of stuff. Because we have not been properly educated. I was trying to tell my client yesterday, this is an accident waiting to happen with this guy. But she's so in love, I just can't, so I have to walk with her as a therapist and a woman of God. Thank God with her, I can bring biblical principles, because 95% of my clients are not Christians and they don't even believe in God. So I get healing without even being able to bring in Bible. This is why I know how connected the spirit man is to our trauma. If we start to rewire that, and I will admit, my philosophy is the Holy Spirit is going to counsel my clients whether they're believers or not. Yeah. So he still gives them what they need, even if I can't ever acknowledge him openly in the session. Okay? We are all spiritually connected. And she talked about her family being giving. That's because they're empathetic. They have compassion. We're all spiritually connected. But we cannot manifest something in our life or in our family that we don't think we have a right to have. If God can, whatever your presentation of God, a life force is, if he can create a family like mine where we are 80% very healthy into our old age. He's not respected as a person, he just respects spiritual principles. And if we make the determination, this cycle stops with me and I'm gonna learn how to rewire, like she said, the presentation of this in my brain, we don't have to have continual generations of experiencing this same trauma. You just don't. I know, we're black. My family was creating multi-million-dollar businesses coming through segregation and discrimination. Our oldest business is like 90-something years old. So we literally own neighborhoods. We own apartment buildings. We own strip centers. We have built whole communities of those townhouse things that's like 3 stories. We own all of that. We own pharmacies, we own dentist offices, doctor's offices, law firms, grocery stores. Our family soul food restaurant was voted #1 in Houston. This is not by accident. And when one of my grandparents died, all of the politicians were there, and so I think it was Sheila Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Lee. She said, I would have wanted to talk, it was my grandfather's funeral, because they were out at both of my parents' funerals. She said, I would have wanted to ask her, how did he build that type of business in segregation and depression? My great-grandfather started, okay? That didn't start with, that came from Africa. So it's something in the DNA where we're all wired for success. And if we're wired for success, we can be wired, we can break curses. And you hear, well, I'm the first person in my family to go to college. You hear stuff like that. I'm the first. You can be the first person I'm not gonna pass on you. Somebody had to break that cycle because they came out of slavery going to college. We weren't taught to do that as a people. My uncle had a 6th grade education and went to Meharry Medical School. Okay? And so he died probably many years ago, and he was in his 80s when he died. So we have to look at, let's rewire for generational blessing. Whatever you want to see in your family, you start speaking it and believing it and elevating that. And as you elevate that and you process, because I don't believe in letting it go. I walk my clients through a whole process of forgiveness. And it's not forgiveness like you think it is. This is a whole different, this don't even have to do with anybody else but you. But we call it forgiveness because it's rewiring the brain, and it takes several weeks to do. But I've had over 4,000 of my sessions surveyed, and I've generally been, and I can show it to you. I'm not saying it because it's just me. I generally have been 5 stars across the board because I literally do therapy very different. Okay? Now, what do you see in your family that you would like to break?
Me?
I'm talking about. Is this what is she to you?
My daughter.
Your daughter, okay. What is it, because I like to assume, I tell people they something, I tell this old man, oh, your granddaughter? Oh, that's my wife. I'm sorry. So I was, it's your granddaughter, because he was 80-something, she was 30-something. So I assume what people got going on. Tell me something you would like to see broken in your family?
That's a very good question. Probably, assumption of, gender roles.
Talk to me about that, and I'm no judgment, so you don't have to worry about that.
How, World War II changed that, women were out working in the factories while men were fighting on land and at sea. And, when they came back, it's the whole gender role switch. Women are now working the workforce, and you have, or I have, certain family member who believes that, or I don't know what's going on in his mind, but, we'll get to this discussion, so, it should be half and half. And, sometimes we clash nits, but I feel that, husband and wife should be equal. They should be working partners, not one does 10% and the other does 90%. Because it's not fair for their partner to do mostly everything and they just have the easy way out.
Yeah. Now, you raise a tremendous dilemma that I deal with all the time in couples there. What you have is a conflict, a generational conflict, but not from the perspective of generational curse. You have, just like you stated, it is crazy that you said that because I literally just watched the documentary on YouTube within the last week where they were dealing with the women having to step up when the men were at war, working in the bank. I literally just watched this and the conflict that it caused when they came back, okay? This is a different type of generational trauma. This is why we have to have in-depth conversations and not put it all in a box. Because I'm Black. When I was young, all my friends' parents, mom and dad was in the house. Now, because my environment was so protected, I didn't see nobody as maybe their parents was abused, it was abuse in the house. All we knew was everybody's mom and dad was there. I didn't even know anything about domestic violence and molestation and all that stuff until I went to college. Literally, that's just how protected my space was. When I went to Howard University, that was my first institution, which I've been to about 5 or 6 now. I didn't even know what molestation was. I knew what rape was, but I didn't know people in their houses was being molested by their family and all that. That just wasn't a part of my environment, right? So you're looking at a lot of different ways that our core belief system is formulated. So you look at Asian families and Hispanic families and Indian families and African and native African families are extremely patriarchal. That means the dad is a very strong head of that house, okay? When that dad don't agree with it, that's a major conflict for children, especially if Indian, African, and Asian families. Like if that dad don't agree with it, they won't do it a lot of the times because it's just a system, okay? So, and I'm gonna let you say this, but when you say that it's generational culturally, that, like I said, when I was growing up, all the moms was at home, the dads was working, and that was the way it was. Then you get our generation thinking we're like you. So my ex-husband used to wash clothes I was dry. He would cut the grass, I'm gonna clean the kitchen. His daddy though told him that I was making him a punk. I was stripping him of his manhood because his dad was from Louisiana, where he worked. My ex-husband's mom was at home, raising, who was what, 8 or 9 of them at least, all boys and 2 girls. she did literally everything. My Hispanic families, dad is out at work, mom gonna be at home, that house is gonna be clean. Cause I'm already in case manager, I would go to that, they gonna give me some tortillas, some pasta sauce, some, what you got for picante sauce? They gonna give me some taquitos, some enchiladas, I didn't go, they give me some food, they gonna give me some food. Culture, is this a generational curse, or is this just cultural belief system? See, this is what we have to really dissect out. What's cultural versus what's a generation? Because it's evolving. Because now everybody got to go to work. But I worked 3 or 4 jobs at a time as a female. So in that instance, that's a hard debate to have. It's just like the 50-50 thing. Where the husband paid 50%, the wife paid 50%. See, that don't work for me because I wasn't raised in that. So my money show up where your money run out at. We ain't doing no 50-50. You pay the light bill, I'm gonna pay the gas bill, and you pay the rent, and I'm pay the car. That doesn't work for me. See, so these are why we have to understand core belief systems, why people do what they do. Now, I'm gonna tell you really why that 50-50 thing don't work for me. And this may be because I'm a therapist and have been there and seen a whole lot. Because the reason why most men like 50-50 is because it frees up their money to take care of the women. Mm. So if I make $5,000 a month and my half of the bills is $2,500, I'm gonna give you the $2,500, you put it in a joint account for the family. She gonna give her 25. Now I got 2,500 that you don't know what I'm doing with it. So you drive by the strip club on a Friday night, a Saturday night, a Sunday night, the parking lot is loaded with somebody's husband, somebody's daddy, raining down money on the strip. I couldn't understand how all my friends that dated married men got their house notes paid, their car notes. I never let people pay my bills, and that's the difference. That's just the way I was told to pay. But how is your husband? How you totally renovating her house and paying cash for it, and you married? Because when they make enough money, and even if they don't, if they only bring X number of dollars to the table, they have a whole bank account, you don't know nothing about it, or what's in it. You may know it exists, but no self-disclosure. You don't have access to it. They generally taking care of a whole family somewhere, or taking care of somebody in their kid. So there's a lot of reasons why that don't work. I wasn't raised in that, but I wouldn't do it even if I was. Okay, so this is the therapy side. So when we talk, we have to talk about all of it. Why do we feel that we need to pay half the bills? Because, goes back to what she was talking about. Their rejection thing, it makes women feel empowered that we both brought X number of dollars to the table. So now you don't lord over me. You don't tell, now we're equal. Like what you're talking about. But what does that mean exactly? Because if now we're both equal, 2 heads, okay? Now, who has the rule and authority in the house? So if we have a conflict, both of us are right, because it's not wrong to do 50-50, that just don't work for me, right? So it's not wrong. Now, how do we make the decision? Because if I'm bringing the same money to the table as you are, you don't tell me what to do. I go to work like you go to work, right? That's the conversation. So we're trying to solve one problem by creating a different problem. And is it really working? But then you have the other side of it. Now, the man is the ruler. Now, you feel like what you're talking about. Well, I'm the head. I go to work. I bring the money in. Or even if you don't, even if we both, but I'm the head. Because I'm the head now, I tell you what to do. You serve me, you do this, you do that. So it's a difficult dynamic to navigate. Where is the balance that works for this family? I'm not saying it's wrong, but we have to look at it. Because the way you see it is not wrong, but the way your uncle see it is not wrong either. But this is how the psyche works. Because in my opinion different from yours, my psyche makes your opinion wrong, when it's not. It's just we both are right from where we sit. Okay? So now you're right, your uncle is right. He has a right to believe that the man should rise up and pay for the lead or whatever his position is. How do we compromise so that we both give up a little bit but still maintain a level of dignity and respect? Because some men weaponize the fact that they are the provider in the house. How many times have I heard girls tell me, well, all the bills are paid? What she's talking about? All the bills are paid. So what if I got 5 girlfriends? You got everything you want. Y'all didn't see you for 3 days. Friday come, you gone. I'll see you again in Monday. But all the bills are paid. We live in a white neighborhood. We don't a black family near private school. So you should be okay with that. See, so again, it's no 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = whatever we need 1 + 1 to equal. Right? So what actually works for us? This is why we have to have hard conversations when we go into relationships with people. Because you're going to bring all of that and you're going to be real excited. These people that get married, I got clients a week, they don't move people in their house, meet them online, 3 weeks later, you got 3 kids, and this man you don't know nothing about is living in your house. You married in 30 days and all this crazy. And then I said, okay, so what was it that made you want to marry him? What do you look for in a man? He had a nice smile. I said, okay, what else? He just had a nice smile. This is real, what real clients are telling me. I married him. She's master's degree educated. He spent 7 years in the pen, but they knew each other in high school, and he always liked her. What made you marry him? Because he took responsibility for what he did, like he owned what he did to go to the pen. Okay, but what was it about him that made you turn your life over to him? Well, because he owned what he did. Literally, this is exactly and nothing else. But you know how that happens when we make decisions from our pain. So if I'm neglected as a child, just open the car door for me. Just pay when we go to eat. I don't even sex for nothing else. Girl, he opened the door. Okay, and what else? That just showed me he cared. When we walked down the street, he walked closer to the street. He had me on the inside. That's great, but what else? That's it. And I'm not even going to exaggerate. They've been married 20 years, and then me, like I said, I tried my session. I'll let them, if they come into a session with something they want to talk about, that I always takes priority. But 98% of them never have nothing to talk about when they come. So, okay, well, let's see what you got, because they already know. They know I'm going to challenge them in a way they're not going to do. So unless something is really going on with them, they let me do what I want to do, because I'm going to ask this stuff you're not going to think about. Okay? So when I get into root causes, poor belief system, dynamics, what is your philosophy of marriage, and everything is so surface, you've been married 20 years. And y'all haven't had these conversations? But this is who you turned your life over to. So now you're trying to figure out why every day is hell. Because I'm 62, baby. Whatever good sex I had in my 20s and 30s, I ain't seen in a long time. Okay, I ain't trying to see it. Okay, so we got to have something else that we deal with. Okay, that worked back then. And when I've been to menopause and I don't even want you in the bed with me, in the house with me, touching me, we got to have something else. Okay, we got to have, you got it going on with all of that. But that don't work for me, past 40 and 50, as much as you think it is, because for him, it may or may not work at 50, without nothing. Okay, so that's just our real conversation. Okay, so we got to have something else going on other than that, right? So these core beliefs, what is your money blueprint? The generational stuff. How many black families were taught about money and finance? My parents were multi-millionaires, but that wasn't the norm for me and my friend, for my friends, right? So just understanding generational curses don't have to be tied to trauma. None of us know how to manage money. We all do stupid stuff. As long as the bills are paid, hey, let's go to the Bahamas for the week. We don't have no retirement, no stock income. We don't know how to pay bills, and it's not even funny. It's the dynamic of the culture. It's not wrong. You're not sitting up at night with your daddy balancing books of tens of thousands of dollars generally, especially when I was born in the 60s, right? So you don't know what you haven't been taught. There's nothing to feel some kind of way about it. What were we taught?
I just wanted to ask about generational aspects of relationships. Hasn't that kind of changed because of all the new things, television and internet and so forth? It's changed because back in the day you did have patriarchal roles and different things, but today it's up to two people to decide what's best for them to survive.
Yeah. Do you know how old are you?
37.
37. Really? Yeah. Girl, I thought you was ready to say 20 or something. Girl, you look young. What? You're 37. Are you in a relationship? Are you married? Or anything with kids? Anything?
Just me and cats.
You and your cats. Okay. What is your philosophy related to if you were in a relationship with somebody? Okay. If I ask you, and I'm not going to give you any parameters, what's your blueprint for relationship? Like when you hear me being in a relationship with somebody else, intimate relationship, what's your blueprint for that?
I would love them to have the same things in common, compatibility. Can they respect boundaries, not nitpick at things?
Okay. Respecting boundaries. How comfortable are you with setting boundaries?
That's something I've been working on.
Most people are very uneasy with setting boundaries. Because when we set boundaries, especially with somebody we like, it may run them away. So then we don't want to set boundaries.
What if you don't have a problem doing that? Because I usually do that. I let them know right up front what I'm not gonna put up with. And it's like this, if you have a problem with it. Stop.
Okay, who can say what the problem with that is?
It's still coming from a place to protect themselves from the hurt. And so, it's not really a boundary that said, it actually, to me, would be.
Well, it is a boundary.
Well, it's a boundary, but if I was a man, then that to me would seem that it'd be harder to, open you up per se, just for lack of a better word.
What cages people out, cages you in. One thing you don't want to do with the average man, a man would have to truly want to be with you. If you brought that kind of energy out the gate to him. Because the way that men are wired, they're not wired like that. And I deal with that a lot. When you have, now this is hallmark for somebody that's dealt with a lot of trauma. Because if you come out of that, people in these abusive relationships and marriages and this and so that's what I'm talking about too. They come and they lay all of this on the table, and then you listen to Steve Harvey and everybody tell you how you should interview people on the first, second date. You already tell my kids and you want to be married and all that drama. And that don't work in the real world. This is why we are so cyclic now in relationships.
But if you don't do that, you're just wasting your time.
No,
because down the line, you find out, well,
Let me tell you,
even what you want, and then you were wasted 2 years of your life, or a year, or even 6 months. Life is
Okay,
too precious to be wasting time with people. Just find out upfront, they have problems.
let me tell you about all of this. I'm not gonna say wrong. Let me tell you where all of that is not desirable. Let me be more respectful. I'm gonna let you talk, and then I'm gonna tell her why all of this wrong with you.
Oh, I know
She was talking, just made me think of what my mother had told me. Don't tell a man what you want, let him show you who he is, show you who he is. And then when you show you, a person show you, you cut it off there. Because when a lot of times women, we tell the men what we want, and they'll be just that. Because I want this, and they'll do that. But let him show you who he is. And then when he show you, you know what, you ain't gonna be anybody, this is, and I'll say this for me. Because as a Christian, the big problem was sex outside of marriage. Because once you sleep with somebody, I don't care how many red signs, you're gonna always, well, let me speak for me, there's gonna be a justification because you want to see it opposed to saying, you know what, I'm not gonna do any of that, cross that boundary, because now I'm gonna have a freer and clear mind. So when you do show me what some stuff I don't like, there's no emotional tie to me. Keep pushing my boundary. I set boundaries all along, but if I don't stay disciplined to the boundary I set, I don't care how many boundaries I set, and I'm going to keep crossing.
Yeah, it's so much to unpack in that. Man, what do you think about what she just said?
So how do you fix that?
I'm gonna tell you, but I wanna engage y'all stop precedent. This is how I like to do my session. I like challenging your thought process. I wish I was a therapist, because it would take us a good year or so, but the way that I do therapy, in a good year, we would have reworked all of that. I know what.
But you know what? And see, I'm retired already, and I'm a doctorate in natural health, right? But what I do is I can give up the pain, but it's like a pacifier. It's like I get into a funk, and then I just dwell in it and just wallow in it. But I can get rid of the pain anytime I want to, because it's on me. No matter what you do as a therapist, I know you're good. So I came to that other seminar that you did. But it's on me. It's on the client. To me, it's on the client. If I'm gonna hold on to it for some reason, I just can't let it go. But like I'll get into periods of time where I can totally let it all go. I just totally forget everything and I live my life. And then other times I just walk around. You know what I mean? But it's like I control it for some reason. I don't know why, but you know, it's like a defense mechanism.
It is a defense mechanism.
Yeah, because remember I did, nursing school, ever since days when I was always on the negative side.
Mhm.
So, it's all of that, what is it, Freud and all of that stuff. It's like, I control what side I want to be on. But I'm usually on the negative
But you
side.
need somebody who, I don't practice like me, because I'm an RN that does therapy.
Right.
So I don't practice like Chris or somebody would practice therapy because, do me a favor, just take a couple of pictures with my camera from my cup. I don't practice the way therapists are taught to practice because I don't like the way therapists do therapy. I'm gonna just be honest with you.
Yeah.
So it's not a waste of time. I
People
just,
being therapy
as
for
a
years and they still have
Right.
the same problem, so
well, and you make a valid point, which is why I don't like the way therapists are trained to do therapy. Because the average therapist teach you how to manage symptoms. They don't work with reworking and reprogramming the subconscious mind. I'm strictly reprogramming the subconscious. So I'm not trying to manage your symptoms. I'm challenging every dysfunctional thought that you have with the highest level of respect. I know in a year you would not have this thought process if I work with you. I don't care. I have enough education and letters and certificate to spell my name multiple times over with the letters behind my name. But so I understand that if you are coming from a place of how therapists normally do therapy, but that's not how I operate. I don't work like that.
Sandra, can I help with that? You're 100% right. Most therapists are taught to manage symptoms. But see, the problem is, and I love this, because she kind of thinks like me.
Yeah.
I come from a spiritual background. I'm a pastor first and a therapist second. And so I come to it from a different perspective than most therapists. The other piece is, I thank God for one of my professors in college and university, Eastern Mennonite University on the East Coast, different kind of philosophy. This guy made me learn Lacan, Jacques Lacan, and all of that kind of stuff, talked about the psyche and how to rewire that. You don't find that in most of your therapists. They don't teach that. They don't show. So there's very people like Cassandra and even myself. Cassandra, she ain't tell everything. She ain't tell everything, but she went to court. So she studied in this way more than I have, but she's got that spiritual piece too. And so you don't find therapists like her because she's coming at it, but she's got the skill set to come at it from a different perspective. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. See, the difference is, as a healthcare professional, we only manage dis-ease when we can't cure it. Okay? Therapists don't look to cure, they look to manage. So this is why they do all those coping mechanisms, breathing exercises and imagery, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just personally don't do it because if I do that, I'm training your brain to cope with dysfunction and I'm not challenging you to heal. So I don't do all those coping strategies and breathing and all that unless you have to have it because your anxiety is so far off the chart. But if we deal with the root cause enough, your brain is gonna start unwinding from the cause that you feel you have to do it. Now, I want to talk about, because this right here is a major problem when you start trying to date after you have enough pain in your life. Then I deal with this all the time. And that's why I want to truly deal with everything you just said. I still can't believe you're 37, Lord, you look like a teenager to me. This is a child, I'm like, she look like 20 at the most. When you heard her say that, what came into your mind? When you heard, did you resonate with it? Did you understand it? Did you agree with it? Disagree with it? What happened when you heard her say that?
I'm on the fence because I agree, respect how you want to set boundaries. And I feel if a guy is really interested in you, he will say, okay, I'm with you all the way. But then, doesn't that sort of like limit your dating? Like, I don't know the word for it, but, because you want to make, yourself a point, say, hey, I'm not gonna put up with this A, B, or C. If you're still interested in me, great. If not, then, don't waste my time. But then if you're always controlling things, then how are you gonna be able to enjoy life?
That's a good perspective. I love that. What did you think when she made this statement? How did you think about it?
Well, I want to know how she's going to take rid of the boundary.
When she said, when I meet him, I let him know out the gate, this is what I'm not gonna put up with, I'm not gonna waste my time. Either you with this or you not, you going out, we'll say within the first 5 days, you lay the law down.
I mean, that's hard. Like me in my situation, I had to go through a lot of things, but like I don't think it's not fair for a woman that making the money and working and have to pay for everything. I mean, you pay for the bills that when the other person is not even helping at all. And like I mean, an example, like when you're sick, but another person's sick, he's like a baby. Like I don't feel good, this and that, but when women get sick, we keep on going with the energizing money. We just keep on going. But I want to know how to set boundaries for myself because I don't respect for someone. Yeah, I don't think it's fair. I mean, we have to do everything. But I don't know all the brain is going to tell you the trauma to get out of it. I want to know that.
Okay.
To build to get the brain, the trauma out of you.
This is a long
To learn,
intense process, but
It's enough, it's enough.
I'll give you
Enjoy your life.
the short version. So let me deal with her comments first, and then I'm gonna deal with her comments. Why that's wrong is a combination eventually of what everybody said. Because if I'm not invested in you, I'm arguing, and I have seen people at the end of life, right? I've had patients, both arms amputated, both legs amputated. All they have literally is this part of their body. I've seen people dying, hundreds of patients dying, hundreds of patients sick with all kinds of stuff. I have seen men, since we're women, because I've seen on both sides. I don't care what that patient look like, body is like, broken, crippled, dementia, they hug, they loving on that patient. Man, they taking care of them, they cleaning them, they doing everything. And then I've seen other men where the wife is in the bed, paralyzed, or whatever, the girlfriend living in the house, because she can't do nothing about it, or in all of this. So I've seen both sides. What makes a man, and I can always tell what the life was by how they exited, okay? The last 5 patients that I had, and I'm retired as RN, but the last 5 patients that died that was actually patients of mine, only one of them had family members with them. And that's because I called them and I said, she is actively dying. Everybody came to the hospital and literally within 10 minutes after they got there, she passed away. The other 4 were completely by themselves. And that says a lot. When you see people dying and how people.
Were the 4 men? They were men?
The lady that had, one was a lady that had our family. The other ones, yeah, they were men. Okay? I didn't think about that, you're right. They were men, okay? Let me tell you what's problematic. Is first, like she said, it's a wall that you erected from pain. It blocks you in, it keeps everybody else out.
Right.
The only way that a man or a woman is going to care for you like that is there has been a meaningful investment. So how I'm gonna rock with you depends on our experience. So I can meet you and I can have all the wonderful, like Chris said, we lined up with our philosophy with therapy, right? So he's educated, I'm educated, we go out, we gonna have excellent conversation, like we both have, on the same vibe, like she said, having things in common, we could line up like that. He can't assume because I'm a nurse, I'm gonna take care of you. If something happens, he could get hit. I had a client a month after they got married. He was a police officer, got shot. He was completely paralyzed a month in. A brand new wedding. Okay? What made her continue to take care of him was the investment that they had in one another. I'm not gonna meet you. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care none of that because my parents were millionaires and anybody know my family know that. So I'm not making that up, right? I'm not gonna meet you and be invested in you. I don't know you. You haven't done enough. We haven't had enough engagement for me to say you could put all of these boundaries up and I'm not gonna put up with you doing this and I'm not gonna. I'm good. I'm good. How? Because I don't know you. So what makes me want to engage and go through the hell I have to go through with you is how invested we are in one another. When I see men and women, all men, and I'm talking about this is 24/7 of hell. That you have what I call here, taking care of this person constantly and never even blink an eye like this getting on your nerves. You know, this is a shell of a person, like what we would think, right? And they just love caring for this person. And I see men and women do this because the investment was made. It wasn't using, it wasn't where you just make the money, and it wasn't cantankerous, like, and these people, you know, I don't care if they've been married 5 years or 50 years. There was an investment that made them want to go through whatever they needed to go through for this person, right? So when you come out the gate, first of all, men are not emotional, they're not like women. They're brave and fire. But men are from Mars, women are from Venus, or whatever it is, that's a real thing. So as a woman, when you come with a man with all of that, like we have 2 men right here. If you're on the first date and the woman is saying, so let me tell you before we go any further, I ain't getting ready to put up with your kids and your baby mamas. I ain't trying to hear your mama ain't gonna be in our marriage. You go we go out, you gonna pay for it. If I want to, I will. Like, I ain't putting over no key, I ain't putting no da-da-da-da-da on the first day, and I want full access.
And then the
If I
man
want
say, why am I gonna put up with, what makes me wanna put up with what you ask?
Because you really are into me.
but if I don't know you.
Oh,
So how am I
Yeah.
gonna tell you?
Yeah.
See, this is like the first day or
That's
two.
all, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know you. Like how would you respond, Chris? I don't know if you married or not.
I'd be backing up,
You back up?
backing up.
Well,
Thank you.
That's fine, still.
But it may be, but I'm not trying to get you defensive. I need you to hear and learn.
No,
Because the way that you learn how men think is by talking to a
I know
man.
how they think, they're physical, we're emotional, they're physical.
Okay, well, you may know what women have told you how men think. The way that you truly understand how a man is wired by listening and studying and read. I took years to study and read books and attend seminars that men created and dealt with that service me. So I don't let women necessarily teach me how a man thinks. I had to learn that for myself through study and engagement and reading books and stuff that men wrote to men. But
A lot of men, from my experience, have been men. Is if a woman's saying to me all of that stuff, that means what I'm hearing is I don't need you. That's what I hear. And so the way a man is wired, you think about any guy that's a real guy. If he comes over to your house, if I come over to your house first date, right, third, 15th date or whatever, and if I see something wrong with your porch or I see something wrong with the light fixture, I see the first thing coming across my mind is, man, I gotta fix that.
Yeah.
That's what crosses my mind. I may or may not say it, but that's what's in my head. I'm wanting to fix that. It will drive me crazy until that gets done. So eventually I'm gonna say, if I'm comfortable with you, hey, let me fix that. Because that's my drive. That's what I'm thinking, right? May not mean anything to you, but to me, it's like, I gotta fix that. It goes to the point that Sandra's making. Most men, real men, want to fix something, okay? And even if that means, and this is not the right thing, but this is the thinking, fixing you, see? I want to fix, like if you bring a problem to your man, right? The first thing, like I said, the first thing that crosses your mind, which is a mistake we make all the time, is now you just telling me, you come home from work, you tell me about your day or whatever, right? Guess what? The first thing that crosses my mind is, I gotta fix that.
Right.
And so I'll make a mistake and say, let me do something about it. I will articulate that to you, and then you get mad because all you want really is for me to listen. You with me? And so this is the miscommunication we have, I think, a
And I
lot
want
of
to
times.
say thank you for helping me.
I'm sorry?
And I want to say thank you.
But
see, a lot of women say your point and
no, what you were saying about fixing the light, that's interesting, because you know what I was like? I would be like, well, I don't need to be so negative, y'all forgive me, okay?
I want you to
I would say, okay, I live in here. And you think that I know that needs to be fixed. Maybe I already have a plan to fix it. Maybe I have to order a part or something. Maybe I was too busy to get the light bulb or whatever. But, this is my house. I live in here. I don't need you to fix nothing. And then, I would say something. I'm sure, I don't know if y'all can relate to this.
I would kind of
Every
take
time
that
I
as being
meet a
unappreciative.
man, say I meet somebody in a club or wherever, they always say, when you park, call me when you get home so I make days safe. You know what I say? Well, I've been living by myself for 30 years, and all of a sudden,
And
I
then
got
for
a
a man
chance
to take,
with you.
we would say that's no
You know,
issue.
give me a
And
break.
I'm saying, okay,
Oh my God, you know what, literally, I'm not trying to be.
Does that. Call me when you get home, so I can say, well, what is it?
You take that again,
The
unappreciated.
level of
I ain't even at that, and I didn't look at it like that. I looked at it as, oh, they cared enough to try to home say.
That's what I was saying.
well,
That's what I was saying.
And that's because from my
anybody,
perspective,
I
this,
live in negativity.
this is a prime example. This is a prime example. And this, I want you to be real because we need to see what real actually looks like. This is why I like interaction, I don't like lecture. And it's not even funny, even though it may appear funny. It's not hilarious funny. It's a sad funny. Because this level of all of us can recognize that this is coming from a level of pain that you can't even understand. I don't even know the depths, and I'm saying this to you for real. I will literally counsel with you for free for a year.
There you go.
Because this right here, it's gonna take probably 3 good months. No, it won't. I want you to hear me. Let me say this to you. When I came, and they know, I don't care if it's one person in here or 100 people. I don't care nothing about how many people is in here, because I like this because we can have a real conversation. When I came, I said, Lord, bring whoever you need to bring that need this information. I'm not a person that chases numbers, okay? I like it because it's just us, and we can really look at some stuff that we wouldn't be able to look at if it was a room full of people in here. The level of unhealed wounds that you have that's driving, remember when I said that your subconscious mind programming drives 95% of how you show up in your life. So she can say that, okay, I want to do things different. I don't want to be, have this presentation. In her conscious mind, guess why it's not going to work? Because that only drives 5%. That's why when you try to say, I want to change it, and you just dealing consciously with the part of your mind that analyzes behavior, that's creative, that makes decisions, because your subconscious, you don't have ready access to that. That's just programming. That's like your iPhone have an operating system that upgrades every now and then. Your subconscious is your operating system, but you can't manipulate or control it. It's just literally based on programming. That's why she asked, well, how do we change it? You can't change it in your conscious mind like that, just saying I want to change it. It literally has to be reprogrammed in your psyche. This level of pain is rooted in so much, this level of this thought process, brother, is rooted in so much deep-seated pain that to unwind, I would have to just let her talk. Now, I would have to just let her talk for about 3 months, just to get all of that out. Okay? Just to let her get it out of her body.
Yeah.
When he's talking about fibromyalgia, every physical disease has a spiritual root. I don't care what it is. If you give me a disease process and I have my books, I can tell you what is rooted in spiritual. My breast, 2 bouts of tumors in my breast, one in 2002 and one last year, rooted in rejection, maternal issues, me and my mother. And I had 21 days between the initial test and the surgery. And the Holy Spirit, and I knew that 21 days was Daniel, diligently. And when them Anderson called and they said, well, we could get you in a week early, I said, no, I know I got to do this whole 21 days, right? I did the whole 21 days, and even when they were doing the surgery, you know, because I'm awake, my breast is just dead, right? And I'm a nurse, so I know how this goes. I've been there, I worked in a breast center, okay? And I can hear her talk, you talk, when you're a nurse, when you see us, oh, she's a doctor, right? Doing the surgery, but, you know, when I see stuff, when you're already, you know how it goes. When you see stuff, you know it's wrong, chilling with the patient, but you're talking under your breath, I can hear her. And the devil is alive. And I'm watching the screen, I can see what's happening, right? And when they biopsied it, everything was benign. This is the second time. And I had, I'm very high risk for breast cancer because my grandmother had breast, my great grandmother had ovarian, my grandfather had prostate. So, but I always said my grandmother, generational blessings, because they did a total mastectomy on this side. When it came back on this side, they literally cut her breast from here down to take this breast off. When they opened it, no cancer was there. All they could do was sew it back up. And I said, she broke it off my family forever. Because God had healed her. So when they tried to come up in 2002, I said the same thing. I worked in a breast clinic at that time, and I looked at it. I could see the configuration that it was a malignant tumor. Same thing happened. Went into surgery. They took the tumor out. They said they just knew it was malignant. From the ultrasound on Monday, I was in surgery Thursday. Okay, my doctor didn't even know what was happening. It's like, what's happening? That was 0 to 100, right? Where they sliced it every way they could, benign. Same thing happened again last year. But I believe this is spiritual, just like what he was saying. Your body keeps the score of your trauma. And I said then, I got to heal. Me and my mother didn't have no issues till I got in my 30s. Okay? And I said, this rejection stuff that I got going on with her, because I'm talking about my natural mother, not who raised me. Okay? My natural mother did raise me, but I was raised legally by my grandparents. So I had a wonderful, wonderful life. And she was next door, but, there's some jealousy issues, I think, the way my grandparents related to us. It's some other stuff. Even though she's highly educated, all that, there's no jealousy. All of us are educated. It's not jealousy from that. I think it was jealousy over them making me the executor of the estate. So it was an issue like that, right? But anyway, I said I got to work on this issue with my mother. And he gave me 21 days, and that second tumor was benign. This is why I'm telling you generational blessings. If we don't get this work, I don't know if you have a therapist or not. Probably not, because I didn't have respect. If we don't get this healed, though, and all I can do is offer you can take me up on it or not, you will continue to pass this pain.
Yeah, I pass it to my son.
Yeah.
And we talk about it all the time. I say, you're cursed because of me. He's cursed because of me.
See,
the things that he does, the stuff that's going on in his life, every time he calls and cries on the phone, I said, I'm so sorry. It's not my fault, but you're cursed from generations down. I did. I passed it down. I really hate to say this. I'm ashamed to say this, but it shows you one example. My mother, and I know y'all gonna be like, oh my God, my mother put menstrual blood in my father's foods.
Oh, they used to.
Oh, I heard of that.
My father had
Yeah.
malignant hypertension.
Yeah.
My father's normal blood pressure was 200/100. He had 2 major heart attacks. I don't know how he didn't die. He lived 10 years before he actually died. But could you imagine? And she let me know, I was old enough to understand what it was.
They used to do
You
that
know,
all the
can you
time.
imagine,
Oh, yeah.
imagine somebody who could do something heinous like that? How could you, what it took for you to be able to do that, something was wrong with you. Something was wrong with you. You should never have been allowed to have children. Something is wrong
But
with you.
see, this is spiritual.
It is.
So you
It
can,
is.
so
But she went to church back in the day, in the 40s and 50s, we lived right around, like I said, we lived right around, we went to Mother Emmanuel. She was in the church 5 days a week.
sure, I mean,
They don't have
nothing to do with it.
That's
It seems like, so what happened is spiritually, in the spiritual realm, what she did was give the demonic legal rights over your bloodline. So you have to literally renounce that and break that. You can't do
Well, I did, because when I was married twice, my first marriage, I used to nag my husband all the time because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And then one day I woke up and I said, you know what, this ain't right, I ain't supposed to be doing this. Even though my friends did it, my female friends did it, one day I woke up and it was like, this is not the way you're supposed to treat a man. This is not, you grew up with this crap every day, you're not supposed to do this. And so, and that's why I said I'm my own therapist, because one day God just woke me up and said, you know what, Brenda, you're not supposed to do this.
That's the Holy Spirit though.
That's right,
Yeah.
so I stopped doing it.
Yeah, but let me say, there's a place that the Holy Spirit works, and then there's a place that you need somebody licensed and skilled
Yes.
to do some work. And because, let me tell you why, when she said what I did, why that's not, it doesn't work like that, because it's conflicted spiritually. Because
she
you
got
can,
that from her, she had to have gotten it from her mother or her grandmother or something.
yeah, no, what
That's
I'm saying is
generational
when
trauma.
he said you have to renounce it, and you said I did, let me tell you why it didn't work. Because I can't renounce it consciously, and my subconscious mind don't believe that it's renounced. See, there's conflict spiritually.
That's right.
And your subconscious mind, who has received and taken hold of these generational curses, you are aware in your consciousness, that's only driving 5%. The 95% of you that knows that I pass this to my son, and I only believe in generational curses, I don't think you can have generational, that cancels out all the prayers that you may have prayed to cut that generational curse.
Yeah.
See, so this is why education, I've done a lot of studies spiritually, and I don't mean spiritually Christian, I mean the realm of the spirit, how just the spiritual realm works. Okay, done a lot of study with that Christian, because I wanted to do a PhD in theology. I have to try to figure out how to get it done without me having undergrad or master's in theology. I want to do a doctorate in theology at Harvard, but when I go in June, I'm going to talk to them and see how I can make that work. This is why we have to understand theology though, because you can renounce it, but if I don't really believe that I can renounce it, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
And what I was saying is when I prayed and asked the Holy Spirit to bring, I don't care, I told my friend, I said, I don't care if it's 2 people, that doesn't matter to me. I just want to be able to talk to somebody to help them be free. If it was one person, I wouldn't care. And when you were talking, I know when God's bring people, I prayed this in my devotion this morning, only bring me my clients, because I do it different, I don't want clients that don't belong to me, because you have to have an ear to hear how he counsels, because he counsels threw me to them, right? And when you were talking, I was like, I need to work with this person. And I will do it complimentary for a year, and I mean that, because until you dial that back, your son and any children that you have is just traveling through the world. And you
His daughter is a neighbor.
You know, I already know it.
Yes, yeah.
Because it's just traveling through the mother. When I woke up this morning, and remember I told you guys that my family is very blessed and very prosperous, and I was in just devotion this morning, and I was literally just connecting to the spiritual DNA of my ancestors. And I know a lot of Christians, they don't feel like I don't care what you feel about it. I understand spirituality. And I know I come from kings and queens. I've done my DNA. I haven't gotten a readout. I come from kings and queens. So I said, Lord, everything in my DNA is positive. Allow me to fully express the weight of the positive in my DNA. Everything in my DNA that's negative, that works against me, that was set up a curse in my bloodline, I need you to shut it down, pull it off of my DNA, cleanse my DNA, send it to the pit of hell, burning by fire, that nothing in me, only the positive aspects of my DNA would be expressed. And I pray that prayer. But when I talk to pray that prayer, most people don't even know you can. So we understand generational cursing. We don't understand generational blessings because we don't think about it. So to answer your question, and then we'll shut down. How do I unwind? How do I reprogram? How do I set down different boundaries? You can't, and this is again why it's so important how you go into a relationship with people. Because the way you establish a relationship, generally that's going to be the dynamic of the relationship unless both people decide to do something different. Or it's going to cause a whole lot of conflict. So like I said, you went into a relationship, he was working, you were working, both people may have been working, but you got a Hispanic culture. What's your culture?
I'm mixed.
Okay, and you're Hispanic?
I'm a
Okay, what do you go by? What's your culture?
I grew up as an Hispanic.
Okay, so you grew up in Hispanic is very patriarchal, which means that the man is highly regarded in Hispanic culture, right? The man kind of is the head of the house, right? Yeah, okay. So when you have that, you're dealing with culturally somebody just acting in a role that they're cultivating in. It may not be negative in the sense of it being wrong. They're just doing what they've seen happening in the family. But if you decide, okay, I'm tired of this, I don't want to be doing all the cooking, all the cleaning, whatever the dynamic is, how do I change this? It's gonna be hard if they don't sign on for it. That's the first thing. They have to, because if you've been doing it for 30 years, you can't just say, okay, now I'm just not gonna do it. Now it's gonna be a whole problem and a whole conflict. But for you to change yourself, then you have to start looking at, we have to go back into the childhood. What is your blueprint for marriage relationships? The dynamic of the relationship. What parts of this relationship can you restructure that's not going to cause a lot of disruption, but that it helps you to get to a better place psychologically? So maybe I can't change this, but maybe I can change a little bit of this over here, and it not cause as much of a conflict, because if you've been cooking for 30 years, and all of a sudden now I don't want to cook, I want you to help me, and that's not what he's trying to do, that's gonna cause more psychological stress, because you set up this dynamic that you're dealing with. Like, this is just the way that the family is, right? And so I deal with a lot of Hispanic couples where the man has this kind of presentation, and now the women are tired of it, you know. But like I told my client last week, but this is what has been happening for 24 years. You guys have been married 24 years. So now that you wanna do something different, it doesn't work like that. So let's look at what parts of your life can we change that's not gonna disrupt the family dynamic too much, but you start to take some of your power back. So I would have to work with you to identify some ways that you can feel more valued and validated within yourself and within parts of the dynamic that you can actually change without disrupting the flow that you've been in for, you know, however many years. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not, I can't give you a formula to say, okay, you just go home and do this. It doesn't work like that. You know, you have a whole system. How long have you been married?
Since 1986.
So she's been married almost 40 years. So you have a certain dynamic that you've been doing almost 40 years.
I think is I grew up in Hispanic, and in Hispanic culture, the wife, the
Yeah.
mother, my mom had to have dinner ready.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that day was for newspaper on the table, shoes, okay. On Sunday, you can't even read the newspaper until my dad reads it.
Reads it, yeah.
And I know my mom a lot. I grew up with 6 sisters and 2 brothers. Now I'm the middle child. My oldest sister, my brother was gone, so I'm the middle child, and I know my mom and everything. I didn't get pictured.
Yeah.
I was like the middle child. I always got the place for everything.
Everything.
I wasn't, you also got at home. Then when I got married, I thought this, it was not like, he grew up with a living baby, he was rich. I worked for everything.
Yeah.
But, and then years go by, so in the culture, you could, when I got married and I went to family reunion, and my farm father said, what are you doing? He said, well, serving Douglas, because I used to, well, doesn't he have to next to feed? I said, yes, he does. Well, you go serve yourself. He got himself to serve his food. But
But that
too long, it's like, I know I worked 2 jobs when I was pregnant with her. That's what I was working 2 jobs. And that's why, I took good care of myself when I was pregnant. I understand, I was taking good care of myself. And, I took good care, and I thank God for her. But, it's not, and even my sister said, it's too late for you baby, and you baby is what he wants. Even though when you're sick or something, they said, I know, oh, I'm still working, so I know you got from work, but what's for dinner?
oh yeah, that's
I have time for myself, so no, I have time for myself. But there's the kitchen, there's, meals to cook, there's the kitchen. Why should I, start out doing something new to eat?
I have heard it and seen it, because when I was case manager, a lot of my clients, my patients were Hispanic. The house is gonna be spotless clean. They're gonna have their food cooked every day. That's just the culture. It is literally the culture. And it's like her generation, they're starting to want to do things different. Like, no, we're not gonna function like this. But it's gonna be very, very hard to get a Hispanic male over a certain age that's gonna be okay with that not being the dynamic in the house. That is just the culture, is Indian culture, is Asian culture, and it's African culture that's in Africa. You know, like not American African, but true African. That man being treated like that, that's just cultural. And you will only change, not even probably your generation, probably like this generation now that's like 20 down, may be able to start changing a lot of that. Because that's so heavy in Hispanic culture. Like them taking care of that man, that wife, cleaning every Saturday. I bet you grew up with this. Saturday morning, you got up, you were gonna clean.
We had to do laundry.
Yeah,
That would be gone.
yeah.
But outside, I helped this lady, I would go to her house, clean her house.
Mhm.
But my dad, our Saturday was laundry day, my dad was
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, and that's how the men, they got to do whatever they wanted to do.
Women have to stay home.
And their women was gonna be at home cooking and cleaning, taking care of the kids, doing whatever. That's just culture, you're not gonna change that.
But then they say, I can make dinners, no, there's a kitchen, there's food in the refrigerator, food that to eat, so there there is. So there's no amount of cooking.
Yeah,
You're home all day, you got, everybody got to eat, right?
yeah, they wait on you. I know, they wait for this. If you can get any kind of changes out of here, that's amazing, because they are very ingrained in that, just as a culture. I know that
Women should be spoiled.
that's the way that they are. But this is amazing,
I always got a couple of things. You're in Houston, correct? I've been in Houston too. I need counsel.
I actually have children, so you got my.
Also, so this young lady, what's your name?
Oh, Brenda.
Brenda, when you were talking and you were talking about your mother, there's I don't know where you are in your spiritual walk.
I guess you want to do anything for me.
Witchcraft is what God showed me this, but I was going to ask you, but you actually alluded to it. You said my grandmother, your grandmother, and so it's also rooted in the God said that in from witchcraft, and it was going to the church. So the enemy is trying to torment your mind through bitterness, resentment, and unforgiveness. And I would encourage you, take her up on her own if you can.
I'm gonna talk to her. You know what I was gonna say, I don't know if you heard, I'm African Hebrew Israelite.
Okay.
And this is Passover, and you know, like, a lot of people don't realize that Passover comes in, but then the Feast of Unleavened Bread comes in, it's a 7-day feast. And it's not just about eating unleavened bread and moving, leavening out your house and stuff like that. But, what was I gonna say? But you know about John Fallon, Jane Fallon, Guatemala, they talk about what Charles was going.
Cassandra, would you like to announce your contact information?
I'm gonna give it to them.
Okay, you just want to give everybody a card, okay?
And my mother.
We thank everybody for coming. Yeah, thank you. We hope you got a lot of benefit.
That's what's working.
And we'll keep you up to date on when we're gonna have another program. We've been talking about it back here. So, we're gonna continue to try to have programs that are beneficial.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Here's my card. But I do, telephone that, so it'll be on some. I'm really sorry about
No,
telephone.
we can
Oh
talk
my
about it.
God.
Well, I
understood that. I understood that.
If the patient.
Most of it's phone.
I got you.
No, let me tell you why I got it. Because narcissism is what we call it personality
So they
disorder.
got people that
And
get-
it doesn't respond to education out there.
we got-
Because in order for them to benefit, they would have to be able to take responsibility for they don't. I mean, baby, you have to see misery until you marry somebody that's narcissistic.
I gotta get back to you.
Oh,
Oh, that's the word, yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying this is where it came.
That's what I'm trying to
Are there
say.
chips in that box? Are there chips in that box?